Coming up, sparks fly in the electric airplane world, plus a mid-air collision between an F-16 and a Cessna 150. We have tips to stay safe when flying near military aircraft.
And big wins on the advocacy front, racing with Red Bull in Budapest. And have you heard the one about the guy with the lawn chair and balloons? It's happened again.
AOPA Live this week begins in just a moment.
It's been called the most sophisticated single-engine airplane ever. But to the people whose loved ones are alive today, it's called a lifesaver. The Cirrus Airframe Parachute System, only from Cirrus Aircraft.
There's drama in the electric airplane world this week. Thanks for choosing AOPA Live this week. I'm Tom Haynes.
And I'm Melissa Rudinger. Things are apparently getting heated between two European companies making electric aircraft and the engine manufacturer. It's a David and Goliath showdown.
AOPA pilot editor-at-large Tom Horn is here to explain. So, Tom, what's the deal?
The deal is that Pipistrel planned to fly its new Alpha Electro two-seat trainer across the English Channel on Tuesday. But Siemens, the company that makes the airplane's 80-horsepower engine, demanded that the flight not be made, citing safety concerns. But there's some people in Pipistrel who think that there's more to it than that. Siemens said that the motor, their own motor, hadn't been tested or approved for flight over water. Siemens then asked for the motor to be returned. To top it all off, Siemens banned any further use of the motor. The upshot is that this could mean the end of the Alpha Electro as it's now configured. Michael Coates, Pipistrel's master U.S. distributor, suggested in an email that the whole stunt was perpetrated by pressure from Airbus, which wanted its E-Fan electrically powered twin jet to be the first electric airplane to cross the channel. Now that flight is set for this Friday, July 10, and Airbus has heavily publicized it. Meanwhile, Pipistrel General Manager Ivo Boscaral said that Siemens never banned Pipistrel from flying over water in any document, and that test flights proved that the Alpha Electro could make a channel crossing and a return flight with plenty of battery reserves. So we'll have to see what happens here.
So, Tom, you've actually flown the airplane. You were over there a few weeks ago. We've got a story planned for an upcoming issue of AOPA Pilot Magazine. What was your impression of the airplane?
It's a great little airplane. It has a lot of oomph. It accelerates great. It cruises at 80 knots very easily. Its cruising speed can be as high as 120. It meets LSA rules. The only thing is you're always looking at the battery gauge to see how you're doing, but less power means less electrical consumption.
Right. So now I guess we'll have to wait and see whether they're able to either work it out with Siemens or they come up with another motor.
Yeah, it's a kind of an evolving situation, and nobody's really said that Airbus pressured Siemens into doing this, but you have to ask yourself who benefits from this. Right. And it's Airbus by being the first electric airplane to cross the channel.
Interesting. All right, well, I'm sure you'll stay on that for us. And meanwhile, the clock is ticking. As we record this, we're just over a week away from AirVenture 2015.
The event is already coming together. We've got this shot of the AOPA activities tent already up on the flight line, and the world's greatest aviation celebration runs from the 20th to the 26th. This year, there's a special tribute to Apollo 13. We'll also see the first customer delivery of the Icon A5 Light Sport Amphib. There's a concert from AOPA Foundation's Hat in the Ring honorary co-chairman Dirk Bentley. And the Air Coupe is celebrating its 75th anniversary. AOPA Live will be there to bring you all the sights and sounds, but we hope you'll join us in person.
And something really special planned for AirVenture. Able Flight is a program that provides disabled aviators the chance to earn their pilot certificates. Here's a photo of some of this year's pilot class. They'll earn their wings in a ceremony at Show Center. AOPA is a proud sponsor of Able Flight scholarships. And one more aviator is earning his wings through a very musical scholarship. Flying Musicians Association is a group of pilots who are musically inclined. This video is some of their members performing at the AOPA Homecoming Fly-In. This year they launched a search for a student to provide flight training up through solo via a scholarship. The group reached out through band directors to get nominations. The winner, Drew Medina of Vero Beach, Florida. plays a saxophone, plans to serve in the Air Force.
We're following details from a high-profile crash in South Carolina. A U.S. Air Force F-16 collided with a Cessna 150 north of Charleston. 2 people on board the Cessna were killed. The F-16 pilot ejected and is safe.
Military versus general aviation mid-air accidents are rare. Last one nearly a decade ago. Still, we wanted to know if there's anything the average GA pilot can do to increase safety when flying in areas with a lot of military training.
Typically, the airspace will be segregated via a restricted area or a MOA or some other mechanism to keep general aviation and military aircraft apart. When you are flying in those areas, you really want to do a couple of things. You want to make sure your transponder's on all the time. You also want to check in with air traffic control to get flight following. ADS-B will work. A lot of people don't realize that military aircraft also have transponders, and when they're operating inside the U.S. airspace, they are typically on and broadcasting. So if you have an ADS-B in capability with traffic, TISB traffic, you should also see that military aircraft in your general aviation airplane. When a military pilot flying a fast-moving tactical jet is flying in, I'll call, shared airspace, we typically are using our onboard radar to clear the airspace out in front of us. So we understand that if we're doing 250 or 300 knots, it's going to be really hard for that general aviation pilot to see and avoid us. So really the responsibility falls on the military pilot and air traffic control. When a military pilot is flying in the national airspace, they are required to the maximum extent possible to be on an instrument flight plan. So military pilots have to be, unless they're in an operating area, have to be under IFR control.
The crash is under investigation, but here's what we know so far. The Cessna took off from Berkeley County Airport just before 11 a.m. Tuesday. The F-16 was practicing instrument approaches and communicating with Charleston controllers, according to the military. The jet hit the 150 at 11:02 a.m. between 2,000 and 3,000 feet.
Well, the record's official. 117 hours and 52 minutes in a solar-powered airplane. Pilot Andre Borschberg holds the title for the longest solo flight as he flew from Japan to Hawaii. The nearly 5-day leg in Solar Impulse 2's round-the-world trip is the longest. The airplane is expected to land in Phoenix later this month.
And you thought you had long cross-countries in the Cessna 150.
Yeah, five days is a crazy long time.
It is a way long time. Coming up after the break, several big wins in the advocacy arena and an updated Stratus ADS-B receiver.
Plus, flying over Budapest in the Red Bull Air races and an urban legend comes back to life. Flying over Canada in a lawn chair, eh? You're watching AOPA Live this week.
From your first skyward glance, the dream of flight compelled you. And from your first glimpse of a Cirrus, you realized that dream had a name. Cirrus Aircraft. Go where you've never been before.
3, 2, 1, release.
Some interesting footage from the NASA Langley Research Center. Welcome back to AOPA Live this week.
It looks almost like a landing until you see the wires holding this 172 onto a gantry. NASA researchers dropped the airplane, complete with crash test dummies, from 82 feet up. The experiment was to test emergency locator transmitters. They didn't do too well. ELTs are supposed to transmit with the distress signal within 50 seconds of an airplane crash. Well, of the 4 tested, only 1 worked as it was supposed to. The others triggered a short time later. AOPA has worked the ELT issue for many years, and we are proponents of giving aircraft owners choices when it comes to ELT technology. Currently, owners have 2 options with the 120.15 MHz or the 406 MHz ELTs, but both use the same G-switch technology for activation, and making sure the ELT activates is key to a positive outcome.
And meanwhile, another win for pilots that you, Melissa, can take some credit for. I understand you took up the issue with the FAA regarding the WAC charts, the World Aeronautical Charts.
I did. So this week I actually met with the FAA's Director of Aeronautical Information Services to reiterate AOPA's objections to the FAA's announced elimination of WACs without getting any stakeholder input or even discussing possible alternatives. As a result, the FAA has agreed to work with AOPA to get that input and look at alternatives. Also, in an act of good faith, the FAA also agreed to continue producing WACs in the September and October charting cycles. a move that gives us time to resolve AOPA's concerns. Over time, pilots have continued to migrate to digital charts, and the result is a steady decline in paper chart sales. However, the FAA still sells more than 30,000 WACs annually and close to 1 million sectionals. We just want to make sure that pilots who purchase paper charts have alternatives prior to the FAA cutting projects.
Wow, so nice of the FAA to at least give us some alternatives for a while. And more good news for pilots in the Midwest. The governor of Missouri has signed into law a bill that will boost the aviation service industry and save aircraft purchasers money on taxes. House Bill 517 adds what's called a flyaway exemption to aircraft purchased in Missouri by out-of-state buyers. It keeps a new owner from having to pay sales and use tax if the airplane is based out of state within 10 days of purchase. Many people had been taking aircraft to one of the surrounding states to close the transactions or to save on that tax bill. By keeping those deals in Missouri, local businesses are able to profit from things like pre-buy inspections and maintenance. AOPA has worked hard on this bill and is glad to see that one pass.
The Red Bull air races are back where they began this week. The pilots are ripping it up over the skies of Budapest. You can see the airplanes go through the pylons above the Danube River. Austrian Hannes Ark took home first place.
Congratulations to him. Our friends at Sporties have a newly updated product, just in time for AirVenture, of course. The Stratus 1S and 2S add features and value. AOPA pilot editor Ian Twombly reports.
Sporties wanted to improve the popular Stratus from the inside out, so they surveyed pilots who fly with the boxes.
Really looked at how pilots fly with it and redesigned a lot of the guts of a Stratus so it works better.
Improvements have been made in ADS-B and GPS reception, along with advancements in letting the units run cooler. Those behind-the-scenes soup-ups may not be apparent at first glance, but it should make the user experience better. The Stratus 1S offers single-band traffic, and the 2S adds ADAHRs for use with ForeFlight's synthetic vision and dual-band traffic. Both units offer enhanced Wi-Fi security. Ian Twombly, AOPA Live.
Thanks, Ian. The new 1S and 2S are available now from Sporties and retail for $549 and $899 respectively. And finally this week, looks like something out of an urban legend.
A man straps himself to a lawn chair tied to helium balloons and takes off. The man flew his lighter-than-air chair over Calgary, Canada. He was trying to land at a popular event, but instead wound up in jail. Daniel Boria parachuted down to earth and into handcuffs. It's reported he spent up to $20,000 on the stunt, and that's before you count the fines. He has been charged with several crimes.
Can't top that. That's it for this week. I'm Tom Haynes.
And I'm Melissa Rudinger. Until next week, keep your lawn chairs safely on the ground.